what what types of executive orders, and is there a list of which executive orders have been blocked? We will find that out in today's video. This article is by BBC titled Legal Showdown Looms as President Trump Tests Limits of Presidential Power, by Anthony Zurcher and Kayla Spine. In the first weeks of his second presidency, second term, Donald Trump has wasted no time in flexing his political muscle. That much is clear. Since taking office in January, he has ordered the suspension of all new asylum claims, canceled refugee settlement, frozen government hiring and spending, gutted agencies established by Congress, and moved to ban gender transition care for teenagers, and offered a buyout deal for hundreds of thousands of federal workers. That might be illegal and that some are calling illegal. My editorial edition: the whirlwind of unilateral action on his campaign promises has pushed the limits of presidential power and prompting legal challenges from Democrats, unions, and legal groups. So far, the federal courts have been the only substantive roadblocks to Trump's agenda, as judges have temporarily suspended some of his most contentious actions, including a bid to end automatic citizenship for anyone born in the U.S. or on U.S. soil, a right established from the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. But Trump is pressing on and seems heated for a showdown with the judiciary that could eventually end in the highest court in the land. This week, a Rhode Island judge said that the Trump administration was clearly and openly defying court orders to unfreeze billions of dollars, my editorial edition, in federal funds. The White House reportedly responded by saying, quote, every action, quote, the president took was completely lawful. If Trump's orders do reach the U.S. Supreme Court, 6 of the 9 justices there, including 3 appointed by Trump in his first term, are conservatives. Just last term, the court issued a decision holding Trump and all future presidents largely immune from prosecution for official actions while in office. At the time, it was a landmark expansion of presidential authority, but some observers have suggested that Trump's latest moves could be part of a strategy to expand his powers even further. Trump's move to freeze hundreds of billions of dollars in federal grants and dismantle the the United States Agency for Internal Affairs, USAID, on their face, run afoul of the checks and balances system of U.S. government. Congress, rather than the White House, holds the authority to control federal spending and taxation, what's known as, quote, the power of the purse legislation, also established by the USAID, and lawsuits have been filed arguing that Trump has no legal authority to dismantle it and refuses to spend funds allocated by Congress. But if the high courts agree to uphold some of his sweeping executive actions, it could strengthen his ability to transform the government and enact policy changes without the help of Congress. And even if the court's rule against the president says, Issa Shapiro, who is a constitutional expert at the Manhattan Institute, those legal defeats might be politically advantageous. Quote, there could be political benefits to being challenged in court and then even losing in court, because then you can run against judges and make political hay of it, end quote. There is another scenario, however. The Trump administration could simply refuse to comply with any court that tries to stop his or his administration's exercises of unfettered presidential power. In Oval Office comments on Tuesday, the president hinted that this might be an option in his typical unique way. Quote, we want to weed out the corruption, end quote, Trump said, begin quote, and it seems hard to believe that a judge could say we don't want you to do that, end quote. Begin quote, we have to look at the judges, end quote, he continued. Begin quote, I think it's a very serious violation, end quote. On Sunday, Trump's Vice President, J.D. Vance, was even more blunt. Quote, judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power, end quote. He posted on the social media site X. That view was simply to one Vance expressed in a 2021 podcast when he said that if Trump returned to power, he should refuse to comply with any court order that prevented him from firing federal workers. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with the video, that is not true of J.D. Vance's statement. I did a video yesterday regarding his comment, and there was some bit of fact checking that needed to be done. I will have a link down in the video description regarding it, to where you guys could go watch it, or you guys can just go search on my channel. Unless you guys rather use the link, that'll be down below in the video description. Directly defying a court ruling, however, would cut against centuries of U.S. history and amount to the opening skirmishes in a constitutional crisis that pits the president against the branch of government designed to establish and interpret the law of the land. Begin quote. My read is that President Trump, there we go, is investing the outer boundaries of what he might be able to get away with. Doing a lot of things that are blatantly against the law, and maybe some things that are close to the line, end quote, said Fred Smith, who is a professor at the Emory University School of Law. Quote, they are breaking a lot of norms, end quote, Mr. Smith added, of the nascent Trump administration, begin quote. Why he is doing that, only he knows fully, but he is doing it, end quote. So far, Trump and his allies have made aggressive comments about unfavorable courts decisions, in the public and in legal filings, but have yet to be sanctioned for disobeying a court, especially a federal court. When Trump was the target of multiple prosecutions over the past 4 years, he frequently questioned the legitimacy of the presiding judges, but his courtroom lawyers adhered to the law and legal procedures. The federal judge in Rhode Island, who had placed a temporary hold on another Trump order to freeze some federal spending, did warn in court filings Monday that the administration was violating his temporary restraining order, but stopped short of finding them in contempt. Conservative Legal scholar Ed Whelan wrote on X that it would be, quote, extremely grave for the Trump administration to defy a federal court order. Quote, I'm open to the argument that truly extraordinary circumstances, the making of a wild, hypothetical, might justify defiance, begin quote, or end quote, sorry. Mr. Millen, who had wrote the statement, said, begin quote, in our constitutional system, there should be an overwhelming presumption in favor of executive branch compliance with federal court orders, end quote. Should Trump disobey and therefore delegitimize the courts, the decision could come back to bite him when the time comes for the president to see his own lawful agenda enforced. Some legal experts say Democratic states like California, for instance, might be inclined to ignore White House directives and federal laws they don't like, and Trump would be hard-pressed to use the courts to bring them to heel. Begin quote, the executive decides it will obey some court orders but not others. It will find it won't get any court orders that it wishes to obey, end quote. Philip Bobbitt said, who is a constitutional scholar at Columbia University Law School. Begin quote, I just don't think they thought that through, end quote. He ended with, when Donald Trump redecorated the Oval Office to his liking in January, he reinstated a portrait of President Andrew Jackson that had hung on the wall across from the Resolute desk in his first term. The 7th U.S. President is remembered for a critical moment of defiance against the United States Supreme Court when the justices decided a dispute between the state of Georgia and Cherokee Indian governments in 1832. Jackson did not seem interested in following its direction. Jackson allegedly said of the Chief Justice's ruling, John Marshall, quote, has made his decision, now let him enforce it, end quote. Nearly 200 years later, Trump himself has found himself on his own coalition course with America's judiciary. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the list of executive orders that I told you we were gonna go over through in today's video, of the ones that were blocked legally, rightfully, and constitutionally. Executive Order 1 was blocked because and this is why it was blocked, because it is a legal constitutional right under the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution that all those born on U.S. soil are citizens of the United States. Executive Order 2, federal funding cut off, blocked. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there was a woman who just recently died. She was a 71-year-old correction of somewhere in the U.S. I know of, but I will be correcting that in a next video of who she is and where she was from. But I do know it's because of her oxygen supply being cut off at her facility. She was sent home, and she died 4 days after because of the Trump administration's freeze. Hence is why it's illegal. He is killing people. Executive Order Illegal Feds Resignation Plan. That is illegal right there because he didn't give Congress notice before he illegally fired started randomly firing out of nowhere people like 17 state attorneys generals as soon as he got into office. Illegal executive order number 4, access to Treasury vital data systems was blocked because it is a known violation of people's privacy. Hence, it's illegal. Executive Order number 5, 2,000 USAID workers was blocked because, ladies and gentlemen, because of the USAID funding freeze. Yes, USAID was in fact affected by the freeze as well. That what he did, and most of them should have already been legally reinstated. I don't know if they were, but anyway, most of them should have been reinstated. The ones, at least, that have been placed on leave because of this illegal and unconstitutional President of the United States. Executive Order 6. Drastic NIH grant cuts blocked. Because the NIH it was illegal for them to be blocked as well. So, continuing with the last one. Removing public health websites. Blocked. The removal of public health websites was blocked because that is considered dangerous. Of the removal illegally of those types of websites and interfering with doctors' work. That is why those were illegal. Thank you everybody for watching, and last but not least, before I do close out today's video, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure that you leave a like, comment, share, subscribe. Lastly, I have three social medias that you guys can follow. I will have them linked down below. That way you can get notified every time that I post a brand new video out onto the channel. And that way you never miss another breaking legal update. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you guys and talk to you guys in the next legal breaking update.